Hi guys, and today in our histology we are going to talk about body tubes. So, as you know that there are various type of body tubes in our body such as respiratory tube, genital tube and many more. But today we are going to talk about gut tube. Let's take it as an example and look at what is a tube look like. So, of course, at the center there is lumen. What it is? Lumen. There is lumen. And what is above lumen? What is lumen is covered by? There is mucosa. And then what is mucosa over mucosa? What is mucosa is covered by? There is submucosa. And then what it is? Do you know what it is? There is muscular externa, some external muscles, some external muscles. And then what it is? There is serosa. So look, if it is made up of peritoneum, then we will call it as serosa. If the layer is made up of, the outermost layer is made up of peritoneum, then what we will call it as? We will call it as serosa. Or if it is made up of adventitia, then what it is? It is connective tissue. So understand this, guys. If the outermost layer is peritoneum, then it is known as serosa. We call it as serosa. Or it can be made up of adventitia. And what is adventitia? It is a connective tissue. So here we will look at a diagram. So as in diagram, as you can see, so in the diagram, as you can see at the center, what it is? It is lumen. At the center, it is lumen. And what it is covered by? What lumen is covered by? It is covered by mucosa. And one more thing, that mucosa mucosa itself has three parts. At the innermost there is epithelium, epithelial mucosa, and it is also has glands. Like epithelial mucosa have glands, so you can say the innermost mucosa have epithelium and glands. And then what it is? Mucosa second part, it is some connective tissue, some connective tissue. And what is connective tissue? And these are called as lamina propria. Simple. And the third part of the mucosa, that is some muscular mucosa, some muscles of mucosa. So here is the thing, mucosa has three parts. What are these three parts? The epithelial mucosa, and then there is lamina propria. And what is lamina propria? It is a connective tissue. It is a connective tissue. And the outermost layer, what it is? It is a muscular mucosa, the outermost layer. So now we will see in diagram what I was saying. So here it is. It is a lumen covered by mucosa. Here you can see this is lumen covered by mucosa. Mucosa have three layers. What are the three layers of mucosa? There is mucous membrane, the epithelium, that is mucous membrane. And then here is mucous membrane. And then what is this line? It is lamina propria. And what it is made up of? It is connective tissues. Lamina propria is connective tissue. And then there are some muscles, muscular mucosa, some muscles. And then above that, what is this? Mucosa is covered by submucosa. And then what after it? There are some muscles, external muscles. There is outer longitudinal muscles, and the inside, as you can see at the outer portion, it is called outer longitudinal. We are talking about the gut, and the inside there is inner circular muscles. Outer is longitudinal and inner is circular. Now, what are these? What are these? Plexus. So there are various nerves coming which forms plexus in the tube. So when the plexus when the plexus is in submucosa, when the plexus is in submucosa, then what it is called? It is called what it is called? It is called Meissner plexus. What it is called? So the other name of submucosa plexus is Meissner plexus. Remember that. Okay? It is Meissner plexus. And then what is the second type of? There are two types of plexus. What is the second type of plexus? The plexus in muscular layer. The plexus in muscular layer, what it is called? It is called Orbeck plexus. Orbeck's plexus. Orbeck's plexus. Or what its other name? Meinteric plexus. Meinteric plexus. So, as you can see in the diagram, the plexus present in submucosa, this blue layer, what it is? It is submucosa. And what is the plexus present in submucosa? Submucosa plexus. And its other name, what it is? It is Meissner plexus. What it is? It is Meissner plexus. And the plexus present in the mesenteric plexus, in the muscles in between the inner circular muscles and outer longitudinal muscles. What it is called? It is mesenteric plexus. You can see. Can you see? This is outer longitudinal muscles, and this is inner circular muscles, and in between, what it is? This. This is mesenteric plexus. What it is? It is this. This is mesenteric plexus between them. These are the plexus called mesenteric plexus. Another thing, mesenteric plexus or Orbeck plexus. These are always present between the inner circular layer and outer longitudinal layer. These are always present between inner circular and outer longitudinal. As you can see here, these, these. You can see the inner part is red, which I have marked. That is inner circular layer, and the inner part is inner circular muscles, and the outer part is outer longitudinal. And in between, what it is? It is mesenteric plexus. Mesenteric plexus in between them. And then the blue area, what it is? It is Meissner's plexus or submucosal plexus. So here is a short view, or you can say about how it is a gut tube. Now we will say the various type of gut tube. It was just a gut tube, and now we are see the various type of body tubes which are present in our body. So first body tubes we are going to talk about, it is esophagus. Let's talk about esophagus. So here you will see this is the esophagus. The diagram is of esophagus. Now in the center, what you can see, there is mucosa. In the mucosa there is epithelium. Mucosa is of three parts as I told you, and there is epithelium, the innermost. Now which type of epithelium is this? Does anybody know that in esophagus mucosa is there, then there will be epithelium, but which type of epithelium? Do you know? It is stratified squamous epithelium. So this is stratified squamous epithelium. This. Then there is some connective tissue and there is muscular, as I told you. Now we are then what is covered by? It is covered by submucosa. Submucosa. And there are of course glands in mucosa, as I told you. Glands, these are the glands here. You can see glands in the mucosa. They are present in the epithelium, as I told you. Then it is a duct of glands. Then there is mucosa. And here, did you see one thing? Earlier I told you that there are glands present in mucosa, but here you can see it is in submucosa also. So I want to tell you that this is an exception. This is an exception. Only in esophagus gland is present in submucosa, otherwise it is present in mucosa. The glands are present in mucosa, but in esophagus you can see the gland is also present in submucosa. And also I want to tell you that in esophagus, the submucosa, sub in esophagus, submucosa, it is the strongest layer. It is the strongest layer. And the other thing which I already told you, in submucosa, submucosal glands are present, but which is an exception. Remember that it is an exception that the glands are present in mucosa. Then there are muscles. What are the muscles? Where are they? Here you can see muscles. This is circular, inner circular muscle, and the outer longitudinal muscle. Outer longi. And what did I told you? Did you remember this? Myentaric plexus. Right now I told you myentaric plexus, also called Auerbach plexus. And where it is present? It is present between. You can see this. This is inner muscle, inner circular muscle, and this is outer longitudinal muscle. And between it, what it is present here? Between myentaric plexus, Auerbach plexus. And then there is a plexus in submucosa. Here, Meissner's plexus. Submucosa plexus, Meissner plexus, as I told you, the plexus in mucosa. And then at last there is serosa and adventitia. Now I told you either there will be serosa or adventitia, but in fallopian tube or in esophagus, at some places there is serosa. Most of it, I want to tell you that most of the uh, esophagus is connective tissue, that is adventitia connective tissue, but in some part there is serous also in some parts. So now let's start the second topic. I mean the second tube which we are going to talk about, that is stomach. We are going to talk about stomach. So what we'll have in this? We will have some gastric lumen, which will have some gastric pits. These are some gastric pits. So there is of course some gastric lumen, gastric pit, and what else? They are going to some in mucosa. I'm telling you, in mucosa there is gastric pit, there is gastric lumen, and what it is? Some gastric glands that I will tell you. In mucosa, they have some gastric gland, various type of like is surface mucus cell. Then lamina propria. Lamina propria is not a like gland. Of course, I told you that it is a connective tissue layer in mucus. Then what are the glands? There is mucus neck cell. There is mucus neck cell, which and the what it will produce. Here you can see the gastric pits, opening of gastric glands contain cells such as surface mucus and mucus neck cell. And then what type of parietal cells? And these parietal cells, what they secrete? They secrete HCl, hydrochloric acid, and some intrinsic factor. Parietal cells here you can see, and parietal cells produce this. And then there are some chief cell that will produce some pepsinogen. There are some chief cells also. And then there is endocrine gland. And what endocrine will produce? Gastrin. What it is? A regulatory hormone, endocrine gland, a regulatory hormone. What will it produce? What it produce? Gastrin. So these are the glands. There is mucous neck cells, and then parietal cells which produce HCl, and then there is chief cell, and then there is endocrine cells. And what chief cell produce? Chief cell produce pepsinogen, and endocrine gland. What they produce? They produce gastrin. Gastrin. They produce gastrin, which is a regulatory hormone. And what these cells are supported by? What these cells are supported by? These cells are supported by lamina propria. Lamina propria, connective tissue layer. These all cells are supported by this lamina propria. Now, I want to tell you about a very important thing which will help you to become a good doctor. You know, so there is a disease called as Mene trier disease. A Mene trier disease. And what it is? It is hyperplasia of gastric mucosa. What it is? It is hyperplasia of gastric mucosa. So it is a hyper and what it is, and like what is hyperplasia and what does it cause? Like what it is? It causes excess mucus production. Excess mucus production. And what will help when excess mucus production will happen? It will what it will result in? It will result in protein loss. Simple. It will result in protein loss. This question can be asked in many exams. So now we will let's again you can see that there is mesenteric disease which will cause hyperplasia of gastric mucosa, and that will cause excess mucus production, result in protein loss. In protein loss. Now let's start our third layer. How many layers we have talked about? I have told you about the stomach and the esophagus. Now we are going to talk about small intestine. So what will small intestine will have on the epithelium, or you can say mucosa? What will it will have? It will have villi. And what its function? We all know small intestine has villi for absorption, to increase the absorption surface, small intestine, as the major absorption is done in small intestine, so it will have villi. And then what it will the surface, what type of surface will it have? It will be mucosa, and the mucosa will be like which type of epithelium? It will be columnar epithelium. It will be columnar epithelium. Columnar epithelium. Remember that this is just a overview. I'm going to explain you later that what is these squamous stratified epithelium, columnar epithelium. This we will discuss in next lecture. Right now, just remember that the epithelium, I told you that mucosa is in three parts and it is epithelium. Which type of epithelium? It is columnar epithelium with villi. Villi, columnar epithelium with microvilli which increase the surface area. And also what it is, that is plica circularis. Here these also have plica circularis. And what is this plica circularis? Where it is present? It is present in maximum in jejunum. Jejunum, it is a like part, jejunum, duodenum, ileum, we all know. This plica circularis is present maximum in jejunum. These are the like mucosal folds which increase the surface absorption. And then there is, as you can see, this is mucosa, there is submucosa, and there are some muscles, circular muscles, and then longitudinal muscles, and then at last serosa. Small intestine is covered by serosa. And then there is one more thing. As you can see, the rest is the same as we have talked about. Mesenteric plexus, myenteric plexus, submucosal artery and veins are there. We all know that. So that is not nothing. Then the serosa, I want to tell you that one more thing. Mesothelium. Here at the end, mesothe at the end, mesothelium is there. Mesothelium is there. And which type of mesothelium is this? This is simple squamous mesothelium. Simple squamous mesothelium. And here I'm going to tell that this is of four types. This is of four types: serosa and peritoneum, and then pleura, then the last pericardium. So this is the thing. This last thing is mesothelium. It is of four types: serosa, peritoneum, pleura, and pericardium. But in this case, it is made up of peritoneum, but it can be of any four when it is present. It can be serosa, it can be peritoneum, it can be pleura, it can be pericardium. But here it is made up of peritoneum. Okay. So this was small intestine. Now let's go to next one, that is respiratory tube. Respiratory tube. So guys, in respiratory tube, we take it like trachea. This is trachea, and now we will see. So of course, at top there is mucosa, and what this there will be some cilia present. Why cilia are present? Cilia is there, but why? Why cilia? Cilia are present for the mucus movement to clear the passage. So the cilia will be needed to clear the passage of the respiratory tract. So some top layer, which I've told you, mucosa, the epithelium, what it is made up of? It is pseudo stratified ciliated columnar epithelium. What is this pseudo stratified? Hmm? I'm going to talk to you about this later. And then, so here we come again. There is pseudo stratified, and then there is mucosa and submucosa, and glands are there which produce mucus. You know, submucosa. And what is this? Cartilaginous rings. This is very simple that in trachea, cartilaginous uh, cartilaginous rings are present, the which is made up of hyaline, which is called hyaline cartilage. We call these hyaline cartilage. And you can see here like this is the ring, and here of course it is a high, we all know that hyaline cartilage, it is C-shaped rings. These are C-shaped rings. These are C-shaped rings. And so here I want to tell you that these cartilage stops hyaline cartilage cartilage. First of all, that these are rigid, and is the whole thing is the whole respiratory tube is covered these by these hyaline cartilage? No. Then where this hyaline cartilage stops? It stops at the level of bronchus. These hyaline cartilage stops at the level of bronchus. So what does it mean? That bronchioles do not have hyaline cartilage. Then what does bronchioles have? The bronchioles have smooth muscles. It does not have hyaline cartilage, it have smooth muscles. And then what? And then what? Of course, cilia for mucociliary action, as I told you. Cilia. So here you can see like at the last there are some adventitia. At last it is end with adventitia, as I told you. So now I'm going to talk you about a disease. Like in last we talked about a disease uh, in stomach, that there is a Menetrier disease, which is hyperplasia of mucosa. In respiratory also there is a disease which is known as Cartagena syndrome. What it is? It is when the patient have immotile cilia. Immotile cilia. What will happen? As I told you, if the cilia are immotile, then there is no mucociliary clearance, because if the cilia are immotile, then there will be no movement of mucus. Then what will it leads to? It will leads into infection. Where infection? In paranasal sinus, which is called sin sinusitis. And then where? It also leads to infection in lung base. In lung base. And what it will called? And what it will called? It will called bronchiectasis. So this is called bronchiectasis, as we have heard. You might been heard a lot about bronchiectasis. It is the infection in the cilia, and it is called the Cartagena Cartagena syndrome, which is in patient the immotile cilia is present, which leads to bronchiectasis and sinusitis. So this is also covered respiratory tube, that there is mucosa, gland, submucosa, then there is hyaline cartilage, and then there is adventitia layer, as you all know. Now let's go to the next one, that is renal tube. In this, we will see that at the top there is mucus, and the mucus, which type of epithelium this time is present? It is transitional epithelium. And then there is submucosa, and then here is the muscle layer. Now, in here, some muscles are like different. These are smooth muscles, and these are different. Like there is inner longitudinal circular out. I will tell you about this later more. So, and the all thing is the same. Just remember that they have smooth muscles and there is transitional epithelia. So this is renal tube. And what are smooth muscles are for? Do you know smooth muscles? The these smooth muscles. These smooth muscles are for the like relaxed sphincters, and is like uh, it helps in micturition process in renal tube. So now we're going to next topic, that is skin. Renal tube is over. Let's talk about skin. So in skin, the top layer, which is I told you epithelium, it is what it is. It is stratified squamous epithelium. So many say that it is same as the epithelium in esophagus, but of course that in esophagus there is also stratified squamous epithelium, but here there is a different, that it is keratinized stratified squamous epithelium. It is keratinized. It is keratinized. But in esophagus there was non-keratinized. I will tell you that what does keratinized mean in this later. And then there is epidermis, and then there is dermis layer. Epidermis and dermis, we all know about the skin layers, and the dermis have two types: the papillary layer. Dermis have two parts: papillary and reticular layer. And reticular layer. And there are some glands are present, such as sweat glands. And what is the other type of gland? That is sebaceous gland. These are the glands present in skin. Now, here, as we all know that keratin is present at the outer surface, like in skin, but does it present in oral cavity also? We know that all the openings, can say, or the layer which is contact to the outer environment are all are keratinized. But the oral cavity, do you know about it? So now I'm going to tell you about some exceptions which are very important. Some exceptions. So in oral cavity, tongue is keratinized, is keratinized anteriorly, and the hard palate, which is hard palate. In hard palate, some it is keratinized and some part is non-keratinized. Actually, body tubes do not have keratin due to the wet mucosa, except the hard palate and the oral cavity. Keratin is only present at the dry surfaces. Keratin is not present at the wet surfaces, you know, but only exception is there that at the tongue. Tongue is a wet surface, but yet it has keratinized anteriorly and the hard palate. It at hard palate also keratinized is there at some points. So now, what is the difference between keratinized and non-keratinized? What is the difference? So here you can see there is stratified squamous epithelium, and in esophagus there is non-keratinized, and on skin there is keratinized. So what is the difference? So the difference is in keratinized, the superficial layer does not have nuclei. You can see here nuclei are absent. But in here, in non-keratinized, such as esophagus or any, you can say vagina, the these cells are present. These nucleus cells are present. But here, such as you can see example of skin of sole, you can say it is not present. The nuclei at the superficial layer, nuclei are absent. Are you getting me? That in non-keratinized superficial cells have nuclei such as vagina, and in non and in keratinized superficial cells do not have nuclei, such as example skin on. So, so this was the today's topic, body tubes, which we covered, and I told you about the various types of body tubes. And guys, if you like this video, please share, like, and subscribe, and hit the bell icon. So, thank you.